How do writers introduce you to their characters? Have you ever gotten to know a character so well that you were a little sad when the story was over? I know I have. I still think about Harry Potter. How is it that a writer can create a character on a page and make readers feel as if they have met a real person? He rushed down the courthouse stairs, glancing anxiously at his watch and worrying about his missed appointment with the new client. When you read that excerpt, think about how that character is coming alive for you. You know exactly what that character is thinking and feeling. What has the writer done to accomplish that? The way a writer reveals character is called characterization. Poor characterization can make a character uninteresting because that character may lack focus and clarity. Good characterization creates a clear picture in the reader's mind. For example, dressed in a colorful blue and yellow costume, the matador prepared his satin cape for the charging bull. I know exactly what that character looks like. You've got colorful blue and yellow costume, very strong description, and a satin cape. So you know exactly what this character is wearing. It's a vivid picture for you to imagine. Good characterization can make readers feel that even fantasy characters live and breathe. The majestic white unicorn looked unsure of her next step. She had escaped from her brutal master at the castle, but where should she go now? Alright, so let's do a quick check and see in this passage what words does the writer use to create characterization that really helps you clarify or visualize your image of Tommy. Tommy McSweeney really hated being the tallest boy in the 8th grade. Everyone assumed he was a good basketball player, but he had no athletic interest or skill. Instead, his talent emerged far from a court or ball field. No one beyond Tommy's family knew that the pale, muscular kid with curly hair and freckles was a classical pianist, and Tommy intended to keep it that way. Again, look at the passage and what are the word choices and descriptions which are really helping you get to know Tommy as a character. Tommy looks athletic, but his secret talent is in music. You can see from the underlined phrases where the characterization exists in this passage. So the two types of characterization that an author or writer can use are direct characterization and indirect characterization. If a writer tells you directly what a character is like, then that method is direct characterization. So for example, in the picture on the right with the caption, it says always a grump. So you know immediately that this is a grumpy girl. If a writer prefers to show characters in action, then the author is using indirect characterization. And that would usually involve you as the reader making an inference. She scowled at us, frowning a rude and frightening frown. So you can see in this second example that the writer does not come right out and tell us that she's grumpy, but from the descriptions, scowled, frowning, rude, that this is a grumpy person. If a writer tells you that a character is mean-tempered or friendly, again, that's direct characterization. You don't have to read between the lines. You know exactly what that character is like. When a writer uses direct characterization, there's no detective work for you to figure out the character. Let's look at the following passage. Which words directly show us Amaya's qualities? When Amaya brought home a pet rabbit, her mother did not object. She knew Amaya was a caring, responsible girl who would take excellent care of the animal. Here, we see direct characterization in the use of the words caring, responsible girl who would take excellent care of the animal. You know exactly what type of person Amaya is. Let's do a quick check. In this short passage, what words give you direct information about Dr. Chang's character? Dr. Chang was the best dentist in the practice. He had a charming smile, a gentle manner, and a warm personality. He made a trip to the dentist a pleasant experience, despite the discomfort. Again, look back at this passage and which words are giving you direct characterization of Dr. Chang. Best dentist in the practice, charming smile, gentle manner, warm personality are all giving you direct descriptions of what Dr. Chang is like. Now, writers generally prefer to use indirect characterization. When they use indirect characterization, they're showing their characters in action. They're giving readers the chance to decide for themselves what a character is like. So this is a more advanced writing technique. A writer can show indirect characterization through the character's appearance, their actions, their thoughts and feelings, words, and character relationships. Now, writers create a character's appearance carefully. Through exact physical details, a writer can imply or suggest a character's personality. Think about how the character is dressed, what the character's posture is, and what is the character's facial expression. You can tell a lot just by looking at a person. By clinging to her mother, the child appears to be shy and unsure. By wearing his scout uniform, this boy appears to be proud of the badges he has earned. Let's read the following text, and what might this character's appearance say about his personality? The man seated in the parked limousine had short hair, piercing eyes, and a serious gaze. He was dressed neatly in a starched white shirt and striped tie. Based on his appearance, you might conclude that he is a serious, focused businessman. Let's look at the following passage. I want you to pay attention to the character's appearance. The girl in the fancy dress and high-heeled shoes squirmed uncomfortably on the hard wooden bench. Her eyes, lips, and hands were clenched. Her head drooped and her chin hung low. A tear slid down her face. How does this girl feel? What details suggest this feeling? She feels sad. If you look at squirmed uncomfortably, if you're squirming and you're uncomfortable, that's usually a negative description. You're not feeling good. If your hands are being clenched, it's usually a sign that you're upset. Head drooping, chin hung low is an indication of sadness. And the final nail in the coffin would be tears sliding down your face. Typically, people cry when they're upset and when they're sad. Now, actions can also reveal a great deal about people. For example, people's actions can show whether they're helpful and encouraging or mean and mocking. In stories, characters' actions can also reveal their personalities. Characters' actions reveal personality, their motivation or the reason why they're doing something, and the situation that they're in. So you can learn a lot about their age and their lifestyle. Let's look at the following passage, and I'd like you to pay close attention to the character's actions. It was a cold October day when Christie's alarm buzzed at 6 a.m. She pulled on her clothes and headed for the door. She carefully adjusted her headphones. Then she pulled the sleeves of her turtleneck over her hands to keep out the cold. Here goes 10 miles, she thought as she headed out. I have to be ready for the spring marathon. What actions does Christie take? Well, she's pulling on her clothes, adjusting her headphones, making sure that she's dressed properly for the cold, and she's running. Now, what do her actions imply about her character? The fact that she's getting up early to run on a cold morning as she prepares for a marathon shows that she's probably a dedicated athlete. I know there's no way I want to wake up and run, even when it's not cold. Now, a character's words are also important because the exact words of a speaker can really show you what they're like as a person. My player did not step over the line, shouted the coach. I demand you review the tapes. Secretly, though, he was sure the official had made the right call. What do the character's words and tone reveal about his personality? Harry, show your talents, barked the impatient instructor. Don't hold back this time. Well, I know that if I was being spoken to by my instructor and he was barking at me, I know that I could see that he's really trying to get the best out of me. He's pushing me as a student to work to the best of my ability. Now, characters' thoughts and feelings also reveal information about what they're like. You want to make sure that when you're reading, you read very carefully to learn what characters are like on the inside. It's just like in real life. Sometimes people say one thing, but they really think something else. There's always more than one side to a person. Let's look at the following passage. Let's pay attention to the character's thoughts and feelings. Frank insisted that he wasn't tired or hungry, but really he was both. The long plane trip with 2 delays had left his patience in shreds. However, he didn't want Aunt Judy to go to any trouble. What kind of person do you think Frank is, and how do you know? Well, the fact that he insists that he's not tired or hungry, even though he is, and he's thinking about his aunt not having to do any extra work for him, shows that he's caring and considerate of others. Now, writers also give readers a view of their characters from another angle, through characters' relationships with each other. How one character reacts to another character can reveal qualities of both the characters. As you read a text, you want to pay careful attention to what characters say to each other and how characters act towards each other. Let's look at the following passage. Let's pay attention to the characters' words and the way that they say them. Michael hugged Annie before he got out of the car. "I'll call you tomorrow," he said. She laughed and replied, "You always say that and you never do." He smiled. "Okay, I'll email you then." "You'd better," Annie grinned, but her eyes were sad. What does this conversation suggest about each character's personality? Well, Michael, I can see, is friendly, but he's kind of unreliable because he promises to do something and then doesn't follow through. Annie, on the other hand, is kind of unsure about her feelings for Michael because she grins and jokes around with him, but you can see if you look closely that she's kind of sad, so she's a little conflicted. All right, let's do a quick check. Which 3 methods of indirect characterization appear in this passage? "I'm tired of being ignored," Maura thought. "When I walk into a room, it's like no one sees me. No more. I'm going to get noticed at the dance." When the big night came, though, nothing went right. Maura's dress didn't fit correctly, and her shawl had a hole in it. Worst of all, as she walked into the gym, the heel broke on her right shoe, sending her sprawling across the floor. Now, how is the author using indirect characterization here? Think about all the different methods of indirect characterization we just reviewed. Look at your notes. Which 3 do you see being used in this passage? Well, if we look at the underlined phrases that are in green, then we can see that we have an insight into her thoughts and feelings. Underlined in red, we have descriptions of her appearance. And then underlined in blue, we have some descriptions of her actions. Motivation is the reason why people do the things they do. In real life, we may never know why people act in certain ways. What could possibly have made your brother think he could dance? Why did your best friend suddenly find a new best friend? In literature, you'll find plenty of clues to characters' motivations. Use those clues to find out what makes a character tick. You're going to uncover a character's motivation by paying close attention to what the character says, what the character does, and when you combine those 2 things together, you're going to get an idea of what motivates them. And then think about the outcome of the character's actions. Let's do a quick check on motivation. In this passage, which words reveal Sheila's motivation for working after school? "Hey, Sheila," said Jessica. "I haven't seen you at the mall all week. Where have you been?" Sheila shrugged. "I'm babysitting for Mrs. Davies." "Babysitting? Why are you wasting your time with some crying kid? You should be with your friends." "My parents said that if I want to take ballet lessons, I have to pay for them myself." Again, we know that Sheila is not hanging out with her friends and has been babysitting. Why has she been doing those things? We can see from her words that she wants to earn money to pay for ballet lessons. Now it's your turn. For your practice, I want you to write a character profile for the character in your independent reading book. Please be sure to include quotes that support your explanation of the character and how the author is using characterization. If you are reading a nonfiction book, then you can complete this assignment using The Chaser by John Collier. Good luck, and be sure to bring your profiles to class with you tomorrow.